Hey everybody, welcome to another Road to 1000 Dueling book rating. This is episode number 6, and we played Gren Maju, Danger, Kaiju, like just a lot of like different engines all together, and it's pretty cool. I actually really enjoy this deck, so I might take it to an event. It just depends on if I get all the cards for it and stuff like that. So we have 3 matches for you guys today. This first one is only a game number 1. I did lose game number 2, although I could have won because I literally could have just super polyed my Thunderbird and like a Bigfoot or something into a Starving Venom and attacked for game, but I just didn't see it at the moment. I wasn't thinking. And also the replay messed up, and so I won't be able to show the second and third games. I'm not sure. It just kind of stops after game 1. So he starts off and he goes with a Pot of Desires, banishing 10 cards face down, and drawing into Magician's Souls and Pot of Duality. So then he goes ahead and activates the Duality, and he adds Diagram to hand. Pretty crazy that he Pot of Desires and then Duality'd into Diagram, and then now I think he draws into Card of Demise off of Magician's Souls, which is absolutely insane. Like, this is just dumb. He searches for Heritage off of Diagram, and then he goes ahead and uses Souls to draw in the Card of Demise. Of course, why not? You know, draws into 2 more Floodgates, but like at this point you can't really do much outside of set the other Tikaboo, and discard to pass. So I draw for turn. I go with the trade-in to start off, discarding Thunderbird, drawing 2, and then using the Thunderbird to pop the Monarch's Erupt that he has set. Then I used Allure of Darkness to draw 2 more cards. So I could just twin him here. I think that it's just going to be better for me to just go with an evenly matched and save the twin for later, because then I could save the twin for the Diagram for later. So I think that's pretty solid. So I go into battle phase, and then he banishes everything, and then he just scoops it up. And then from right here, the replay just messes up. I'm not exactly sure why. But yeah, that was match 1, game 1. I know it was kind of like, you know, bad, but I guess it's just an introduction. Next thing that we have against is Salaman Great. He starts off with Sign Up Mining, discarding Spinny, searching Gazelle. I also do want to mention really quick that I did lose a couple games due to my internet just lagging out, and then also another couple games due to me just not playing very good. So yeah, I guess that's like the story. So my rating is pretty low after this. It's in this current game, it's like 369. I think at the end of everything that happened, I think my rating is 370 instead of what it was last episode at the end, which was 400. So we lost a couple rating, but that's okay. It happens sometimes. He goes with the Gazelle, sending Jaguar to grave, and then he links it off into a Balinx, and then he revives. Oh, he grabs the Sanctuary and then revives the Spinny off of its own effect. And then he makes a Sunlight Wolf, which is pretty good. Reincarnates it, I believe. And then I believe he summons back the Jaguar, and then adds the Gazelle back to hand, I believe. Yep. And then he goes ahead and actually links off his Jaguar into a Balinx, because he does have the Roar set. So if I Kaiju the Wolf, then his Roar's dead. But if he has the Balinx on field, he can still activate the Roar. So that's pretty much the reason why he did that. I go ahead and start off with a trade-in, discarding Bigfoot. He ashes that really quick, and so I didn't get the draw. I drew in a Super Poly, which would have been great, but it's okay. We go for Foot's Effect to pop the Balinx, and he can do one of 2 things. He could protect the Balinx here, or he could just leave it. And I think it's just going to be better for him to leave it on the field, or for it to, you know, have it get popped, which is his thought process. So he lets it get popped, and I say that's okay. Uses Gazelle's effect, and then he goes ahead and adds the Ash back to hand, and then he mills the Spinning. I go ahead and Kaiju the region. I show him this zone is the one that I wanted in, and then I go with a Pot of Desires, banishing 10 cards. And I draw into a Danger Bigfoot as well as a Super Poly, which is pretty solid. Because now we go with a Allure, and we banish the Bigfoot, trade in the Gizmek, and then we go into battle phase because we drew the evenly matched, and we go ahead and banish everything. I believe he keeps the Gazelle on field, which is fine. We go into main phase 2, we set the Super Poly, and pass our turn back to him. We don't set the Twin Twisters because the most he could do would be like to set 1, you know. Maybe he'll get like a Wolf back and then he'll reincarnate it and get a back row, but like I can just deal with that on my turn if I need to. He goes with a Balinx and uses the Jaguar's effect to summon itself back, returning the other Balinx. And then I go ahead and hit him with a Super Poly here for Violet Chimera. The reason I do it here is so that he can't bring back the Spinny. I think it's just a better play, although I'm not like 100%. Probably would have been better for me to wait for him to get the Spinny back and then Super Poly him, but it's fine either way. So we draw into Phantasme for turn. So I'm doing math here. So I realized if I banish my entire extra deck, let me just fast forward this. Perfect. I realized if I banish my entire extra deck and then go with the Violet Chimera and this attacks, I believe I have 25 cards banished and there's 3 banished right here. So this Eater is at 2,800 right now. So this is giving me 5,600 damage, which is pretty great. We can also bring back the Gizmek, banishing 8, so we get an extra 800 damage on that. So my Eater is going to be at a total of 3,600. And that would have been game here, because he does take the 3,600 from the Eater, bringing him down to 1,600. So if I did have the Gizmek, it would have been game, but that's okay. It happens sometimes. Unfortunately, I'm out of an extra deck for the rest of this game, so it's kind of rough. But he starts off with a normal summon Foul, and then a Jaguar Reborn, or a Spinny Reborn, I guess. I guess he does the Jaguar later. He banishes the Spinny with just a Link Summon into a Balinx. I go ahead and hit him with a Phantasma here, drawing 2. Well, he hits me with the Ash, actually. That's why I didn't draw any cards. Jaguar summons itself back, and at this point, he can't really do much. He realizes, so he scoops it up. Moving on into game number 2. I believe he still starts, or no, he makes me go first. So I just set a Super Poly and pass. He goes ahead with a Foxy effect, banishing these 3 and getting the Rage, Debug, and Mind Control go back to the deck. Links it off into a Balinx and searches for Sanctuary. Now he goes with Will, and I believe he specials, yep, the Falco from hand. And then he just goes ahead and attacks for 1,700. I could have hit him with a Super Poly here, and it probably would have been pretty bad, because then he would have been stuck. I guess it could have triggered his Gizmek Kaku, though. And he probably would have had some more plays from there. But, you know, I just think it would have been... I decided to save the Super Poly, which I think was the correct play here. He links everything off into a Sunlight Wolf and then uses the Sanctuary to reincarnate into another one. And there's not really a whole lot else he can do here, but he sets the rage and passes his turn. We draw for Lightning Storm for turn. So we hit him with the Kaiju, so he can't hit us with any roar or anything. I wasn't sure if this was a roar, so I just went ahead and I guess I probably should have known it was rage due to, you know, it being a thing. But it's also easier to get over just because Balinx can't protect this. But we go for Bigfoot's effect when we try to pop the Sanctuary, which he uses the Balinx to protect. And then we hit him with the Lightning Storm. He chains Rage to hit the back row, which is fine. The Super Poly wasn't doing anything really for us anyways. We go with the Desires, banishing 10 cards. And then we draw into a Bigfoot and a Thunderbird. We go ahead and reveal our Thunderbird. And he hits us the instant fusion, and we draw into a danger response team, which is crazy because now we can just return them, both the Kaiju and the Thunderbird, back to our hand and reveal the Thunderbird again. He hits the Bigfoot this time, and we draw a card. We draw into Gizmek Kaku, or no, Gizmek Orochi, my bad. And so we attack for 2,800, and we pass our turn back to him. He draws Signet Mining for turn, probably one of the best draws he could have done. I think he goes with the Signet Mining, discarding the Gizmek Kaku. And he searches for Gazelle, which is pretty solid. Just absolutely crazy that he can get all these plays going. Gazelle sends the Jaguar, and then from here he's got lots and lots of summons that he can go with. So he links off into Balinx, and I hit him with the Phantasme, drawing 2. At this point, Gren Maju is going to be at 4,000 attack if I just leave it, so that's pretty solid. So I think I decided to put back the Allure, because I can still Radiant just hit over, or just return like one of his Sound Migrates, or, you know, tribute over a Sound Migrate so he can't roar me or anything like that. So it's pretty solid. He returns, I believe, the Sunlight Wolf here and goes into a Jaguar. And then I think he uses Falco so he can bring back his Jaguar to hand and links into a Sunlight Wolf. Spinny's effect summons itself and then uses Sunlight Wolf's effect to grab back the Gazelle for the next turn. He links everything off into another Sunlight Wolf, which is pretty good, and adds back Will of Salamangreat. He sets the rage so he can pop 2, and I believe he pops these in the standby phase, which is okay. Next we go with a Pot of Desires, banishing the top 10 cards of our deck. And now our Gren Maju is going to be at 8,000 attack, so we can just hit this Sunlight Wolf really hard. But I decided to dig a little deeper, banish the Thunderbird, trade in, discard the Gizmek Orochi, and at this point I just normal the Gren Maju and I attack for game. I could just chain the Gizmek here, but like, it doesn't matter. This is already like 8,400 damage, so like, or 8,400 attack, so I think right here this is like 6,600 damage, I think. It's pretty crazy. Anyways, going on into our third and final game, we are playing against this like warrior ninja deck. And I actually haven't seen these techs before, but there's like these like equip spells that like place itself on the top of the deck when they're sent to grave. So like it synergizes very well with Isolde. He goes ahead and activates Notebook. I think this like discards one and then sets a spell or something. So he sets this one and he just goes ahead and activates it to send that to grave to draw 2 cards. It's pretty cool. It's a cool little engine that gets you some couple draws. He goes for Rescue Rabbit and he summons Ignite Paladin and 2 Ignite Paladins. And he also plays Templar, which is really interesting. I think these are the only Ignites he plays, just like 3 and 3 or something. Anyways, he activates his sword and then he links off into a Isolde, and so Isolde searches for, or this goes chain link 1, this goes chain link 2, so he searches and then he puts the sword on the top of the deck, and then at this point he can send 4 equipped spells from his deck to the grave, and all of these have the same thing. When it's sent from the field to the grave, you return it to the top of the deck. This one you pay and you place it on the top or bottom, and this one just goes on the top of the deck as well, and then this one's just fantastic. The Phoenix Blade's amazing, just all together anyways. And then he just goes for a Hanzo. So when it's special summoned, you can add a ninja monster from your deck to your hand. So he just searches for a one of the pendulum scales, and then he uses the sword because I believe it's just a mandatory effect to send itself back to the top of the deck always. Then he uses the World Legacy Secession to revive back the Hanzo so he can search again for this one, which actually you can change to defense mode. It's very reminiscent to me of the Kakari monsters, where you can change them, like when their battle positions changed, you can do effects or something like that. I don't know, I wasn't super familiar with them, but I know that they have something like that. But you can change it to defense mode and then summon like two ninja monsters from your grave, which is pretty cool. He goes ahead and pendulum summons for 4 monsters here. I'm not sure if that the paladin was summoned correctly. I'm not sure if he summoned it from the extra deck or not. I didn't catch that. Anyways, he overlays into Dugares and he discards 2, or draws 2, discards the Eagle Booster, which is pretty much useless at this point. Anyways, then he uses his Twilight Knight to summon back 2 more ninjas from the grave. Hanzo searches due to its own effect for another pendulum scale. He can link off into a Saizo, which I believe it looks like it sets a ninjutsu art spell or trap from your deck. So that's pretty interesting. He sets the transformation, which can turn one of his dudes into the big bird, which we'll see in a second. He goes for an Appaloosa with 4 negates. Pretty crazy. Then he goes Monster Reborn, brings back the Hanzo, so he can trigger this ninjutsu art to summon like the big bird. Anyways, then he goes with he searches for another scale. Pretty solid stuff. And it passes it over to me. So at this point, he's going to use its effect to summon the Mist Valley Apex Avion. And we can bait this out with the Mind Control, so we just go ahead and do that. He returns it back and negates it. Then we hit him with the Kaiju Slumber, summoning the Gamma Seal to his field and the Dogoran to my field. The reason I summoned Dogoran is because it's an 8, and so is the Gamma Seal, actually. The only one that's not a level 8 is Raijin, or the level 7, 2800 attack Dark Monster. And the only reason I played is because you can allure it away. So that's pretty cool. Eater of Millions, banishing 5. And then we reveal the Thunderbird. Hits the Thunderbird. So we get no effect. Ogopogo discards the Gadarla. And I believe we draw Super Poly here. Yep, so we can't really do anything with that. So we just go into battle phase and we banish the Gamma Seal. And then we attack for 4,200. Then we can overlay for a Dingirsu. And I know he had the extra skills in his hand or whatever, but we just decided to hit the Twilight Ninja anyways. And it actually goes to the extra deck here, but he just puts it in the graveyard for some reason. I think he read Dingirsu wrong. He drew for turn, which he shouldn't have because of Dugaris, so he puts it back. Then he goes ahead and scales the ninja and the karate spirit or whatever, and then he pendulums for, I believe, 4 monsters. Maybe it's 3, I can't remember. We'll have to see here. Looks like he goes for 4, so he goes with a paladin, apex avian. Oh, my timer's going off. Sorry about that. That's for something else. Don't worry about that. Anyways, Kuro to hand, because when he pendulum summon, it goes back to your hand. So now he has a negate. This guy pierces, and then he can go ahead and also use the divine sword, banishing 2 warriors, so he can get it just to like beat out my Dingirsu. So at this point, he attacks over. I detach a material, and then he attacks again. I detach another material, and I take some damage due to piercing. And then he passes it back to me, which is interesting. Actually, no, he links off into Phoenix to destroy my back row, which is fine. I don't care about the super poly anyways. Passes it back to me. I draw Phantasme for turn. Really unfortunate, but that's okay. I use Kaiju Slumber, and he's forced to negate it here. Otherwise, I'm just going to search a Kaiju and then tribute over the Apex Avian and then banish it. So, like, it's whatever. We attack with Eater of Millions over the Phoenix. Gets banished. Should be banished face down. I think he fixes it here in a second. And then I attack over the Paladin for 1200 damage, and it passes back to him. He draws Impermanence for turn, and he scoops it out. Going into game number 2, I believe he starts, if I'm correct, yes, he starts with a Paladin, Moonmirror Shield, and Brigadine, so he can start his Isolde plays, which is pretty cool. Moonmirror Shield, you have to pay 500, you put on the top or bottom of your deck. He goes for a Search of Paladin, which is fine. He can scale it, which is pretty good. I think that's like the whole point in this deck, is that you can scale your guys anyways. He sends 4 equip cells from the deck to the grave and summons Hanzo and uses the effect to search for Upstart Golden Ninja. He scales Paladin and the Karate Spirit, which you can do actually. You can actually scale these. This will only prevents you from summoning them or activating their effects. And obviously, if it's a normal monster, you can activate their effects, but you can still activate them as a pendulum scale. He then pendulum summons for 3 monsters, and then his Kuro Spirit goes to his hand. Links off into a Decode Darker. And then I think he missed out earlier, but his sword's supposed to go back to his deck. I think he just forgets. But he fixes it here. He overlays into a Dugares and then detaches 2, and he draws pretty bad, it looks like. So he could discard like the sword, but like from here it's just like there's not really a whole lot he could do. But he just straight up scooped up, which is interesting. He didn't even get to see what I had planned for him. But I think my hand here, obviously I don't know the top card of my deck, but like I could Kaiju something, I could like, you know, summon the Pinkertops, and then I could still deal with like whatever threats I need to. I don't have a really like good way to deal with the Gren Maju, so like revealing the Bigfoot here would be really interesting. I think it just really depends on the next top card in my deck, but like I could definitely get over the Decode Tucker with the Bigfoot. I could either reveal it from my hand, and if it gets pitched, then I target the Decode Tucker and destroy it, or I could like Kaiju the Decode Tucker and then summon the Pinkertops, and then like I can still deal with like all of these threats on the field. So I think like there wasn't really that big of an issue for me. Especially like Pinkertops just by itself is like super solid, and it looks like he like maybe the most he could do would be like make an Appaloosa, which I would like Kaiju anyways. So that's gonna do it for today's episode. It's a little bit of a shorter episode, and I think you guys are probably okay with that. I've been pumping out like 25-30 minute videos, so this is a little bit of a shorter one, but yeah, if you like seeing the Gren Maju deck, then I will definitely do like another one of these. I also have another thing planned, but you'll have to see that for a later video. I'm also going to be participating in a non-meta tournament, and so I will be doing the replays from that, and I will hopefully be posting those as well. Anyways, I've been rambling long enough now, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.